You have this beautiful new album, an EP out right now, and a song, Blonde, out. But let's start at the beginning. How would you describe your sound? Is it alternative pop? Do you have a way that you tend to describe it?
Yeah, I would call it alternative pop. And yeah, I guess there's the soulful element, and I'm a songwriter, so obviously the writing is very much kind of in the forefront of my music, and the vulnerability of the lyrics and the vocals. So yeah, and I love to kind of build this kind of different dimension, this fairy tale with the sounds, with the production around the songs.
Well, when it comes to your songwriting, who are some of your musical influences initially?
Well, I guess I grew up listening to like Joni Mitchell, Prince, Aretha Franklin, Carole King, Whitney Houston. I think many of those have definitely influenced my
My
songwriting
songwriting.
very heavily. But and then I guess also I then later started to listen to like Bon Iver, Frank Ocean, uh, Lana Del Rey, and a bunch of other kind of in that kind of alternative, James Blake. I love stuff that kind of takes you out of this reality and creates this kind of and is like led by strong feelings. So yeah, and I love like big voices, singers, and like Adele or Sia definitely inspired me. And I think when I discovered my voice, I was like, oh, there's so many things that can be done. And I've always been a big fan of big singers, so I've tried to practice towards that.
You have Blonde out now. Talk about the inspiration behind it.
So yeah, this EP that will come out in November, on this November 17th, is about grief, and it goes through the five stages of grief. And Blonde is the first single, and also represents the first stage of grief, which is denial. And so that's kind of, it was written back 5 years ago, back in 2018. But I wanted it to be part of this EP because I felt like it really embodied the place I was in back then, which was in denial. So I wanted, it was kind of capturing that moment in time into this little song. And I'm just very happy it's out finally, because it's been sitting there on the hard drive, and I've been like loving that song for a long time, and it didn't really find its home until now. So I'm very excited it's out.
What has the fan response been like to it?
It's been great. I've had a little break from releasing. I released one song last year and a few songs that were in TV shows this spring. So I haven't really released an official like thing for a while since my album in 21. So it's been lovely to, see that people have welcomed me back with open arms, and I think it's kind of a new chapter, but it's still tying together with everything else I've done in the past. So it's like an exciting new start, but still makes a lot of sense for my artist project, and it isn't too different, but it's something new. So I hope more and more people will discover it, and yeah, when the EP drops, I'm looking forward to that.
What made it the perfect first single then off the EP?
Well, I felt like also the fact that it was the first one um, written. It was obviously, yeah, the first one ever written of the songs for the CP. So I felt like it was kind of, in time. And then also that it's the first stage of grief, denial. So I kind of like the fact that we start with we kind of go in order, not completely, but a little bit in order of those. But grief is never linear either. But I felt like this one just felt like the right one. It also represents kind of the direction I'm going with this new EP and after that. So it just felt like the right opening.
What's your songwriting process? Do you need to have music before you can come up with a lyric, or do you think of a lyric, write it down, and then maybe try to piece music around it?
It really depends. Sometimes it's music first and then lyrics and melody. But a lot of times these days, it's actually the lyric first, and then I start kind of building the melody around the message. So I like to know what I'm about to say in order to figure out the melody and the music around it. But this one in particular was kind of in the kind of figuring out the chords first. Then, and we wrote this with two writers back in London, and together. And it was like one of the musicians, he was playing the piano, and then we were kind of throwing around ideas of the melody and the lyrics. So I had this idea of going with this title blonde because I had kind of throughout this kind of quite difficult time and difficult relationship I was in, this person had blonde hair and kind of grew it out. So I felt like that was a that was an interesting thing to like interesting detail to have as the main thing about the song.
When it comes to the production side of the music you make, how hands-on are you then?
I'm pretty hands-on. It really depends on the song. Sometimes I just focus mostly on the songwriting, and sometimes I'm kind of co-producing more ideas and stuff, and sometimes I'm engineering. So it really depends. With this song, I was kind of throwing ideas and co-producing
Hmm.
ideas, not that much doing engineering or anything. Um, and I don't play any instruments very well, or I play piano pretty well, but I don't play other stuff. So I like to stay in my lane with focusing on my vocals, my writing, and the piano, and then with just creative ideas for the production. So we created this mid-eight part in this song that goes to this whole different like kind of world, and it kind of slows down. And that was just an idea I suddenly had, and then we started building it with our friend of ours played strings on the song, and
Oh,
kind of
cool.
started to build it from there. So yeah, it really depends on the track. And then Sublime, which is the next single coming out this Friday, um, is then again I just wrote it alone on the piano, and then I sent it to my friend who produced it. So we very much worked alone in our lanes. So sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it's everything together. Sometimes it's kind of depends on the song and the process and the people you're working with, I feel like.
Is there a song on the EP that really holds a special significance for you? Or maybe one that challenged you the most creatively when you were trying to come up with finalizing it all?
I think the last single, so the one that will drop when the EP drops, it's called FU Forever. I think that one was the most challenging, also because of the message. I usually don't write angry songs. I like to stay in this kind of sadness or in rather than like hopeful melancholia or joy. I don't usually get angry, so it was a tricky one to kind of navigate for that reason too, and have the courage to show it to people later, to release it now. It felt pretty scary. Now it feels right, but that song used to feel very scary to me. And I think because of that fact, it has been quite hard to figure out the production too, and the sound and the mix,
Mhm.
all of the stages of that song they have been tricky. And with that one I've been pretty hands on. But it was a journey, and now it's coming out. It's crazy.
With the EPs coming out in November, what do you hope lingers with people who are going to explore might not want to wake up as a whole? Is there a message, an emotion that you hope stays with people?
Yeah, I mean, the I hope people will feel understood. I hope people will kind of maybe they will see themselves in it, or just connect with it in any kind of way.
Mhm.
I just always, whatever feeling it evokes in people, I feel like then you've succeeded. If you if it if it feels like anything, then I feel like I've done what I'm supposed to do. So yeah, whatever it is for everyone. I mean, everybody has their own story and their own angle they kind of come to the story with. But I hope it'll feel a kind of healing and like this warm embrace, that despite all of these struggles, you can get to a place of light.
Well, I think that's a beautiful message that will certainly linger with people that explore this EP coming here
I
shortly.
hope so.
How do you tend to decompress after you've been in the studio with emotional songs like these?
Well, I mean, I feel like it's always a very therapeutic experience
Mhm.
to make this kind of music, and yeah, I love making music that is therapeutic to me because I feel like I'm honest and real. And so obviously it is quite exhausting, and but at the same time I feel like it is like necessary, and I think I feel like, I mean, I usually try to take a, after I've been in the studio for a while and been working on stuff, I try to, have some distance, be with my friends, spend time with my family, go out in nature. I think nature is always this kind of calming calming element for me. Water, be by the water. I grew up on an island, so water is always very like grounding and calming to me. So I try to, and I love movies. I love watching stuff, TV shows, whatever. I try to kind of get my mind off the music. And then usually the process goes, I come back to it on the mix or the production. So kind of always going back and forth. And now when it's coming out, it's like you're letting go of your child. It's
Of
crazy.
course, of course.
Yeah. So I will have to spend a lot of time in nature and dinners with my friends after this release. It'll be crazy.
Is there someone you would love to collaborate with on a song in the future, or maybe a dream artist you have in mind?
Oh, well, many. I'm a fan, like I love music, I love films, and there's, well, many artists I would love to collaborate with. Maybe, that's a hard one. There's so many. Um, Maybe like Christine and the Queens, 070 Shake. And like, oh, I love the Ryan Beatty album. I would love to do a little duet or something with Ryan Beatty. I mean, FK Twigs. I don't
Ah, that'd be a
know.
good one.
Yeah, a lot of, yeah. And like just amazing singers. I don't know, like Sia or something. Like that would be nuts to sing with a legend. Yeah, I guess a lot of artists. Yeah, I mean Frank Ocean. I don't know, a lot of artists probably never gonna happen, but
Anything is possible.
definitely, yeah, throwing it out in the to the universe here. Let's see. I'm looking forward to it.
What would you like to say then to everyone who are fans and supporters of the wonderful and beautiful music that you make?
Thank you. I I mean, just, be yourselves. You know, Take care of yourself, of your loved ones. I think I've been kind of going through a process myself, with my mental health and stuff, and what I've learned is to really, really also just make sure that I'm actually really living the kind of life that I want to,
That's
and
good.
that looks like me, and trying to focus on the joy and the good parts also in this crazy, dark, terrible world. So I hope I hope also my music brings some hope and joy to people.
I
And
think
thank you for listening. I hope people, I just want a big, big hug to everyone who listens to my music because that's, I'm very much in the beginning still. So I'm just insanely grateful.